Going to have ourselves a very serious discussion this morning. Kind of a tough discussion, not going to be very popular with some of the people out there, but dare I say it's a discussion that we need to have. So let's go ahead and do it. Welcome to Prepper Nation. I'm John. Thank you very much for being here, for subscribing to the channel, and for helping the channel out. There are a bunch of links down below in the video description. It's a little chilly down here. In the video description, if you choose to help the channel, that's awesome. If not, that's awesome too. Thank you very much for being here. Megan Donahue, thank you for sponsoring the Mean Bean this morning. Truly appreciate it, ma'am. So we're going to be talking about sleeper cells this morning, but we're going to have a broader discussion when it comes to sleeper cells. I know that's kind of a hot topic, if you will, in the community right now. A lot of people are talking about sleeper cells, how many are here, where they're at specifically, what states are loaded down. I was kind of surprised to see North Carolina as one of them, but I'm going to blame Charlotte, Concord area for that. Again, I want to have a broader discussion because I think we need to have a bigger discussion about it here, folks. Now we had an awesome discussion last week. Thanks again to Chad over on Patreon, and we had talked about the draft. If you missed that discussion, again, I think it was like 5 or 6 days ago. Yellow thumbnail art. It says the draft. So go check that out if you want to, if you have the time. But it was an awesome discussion. We had talked about wars abroad, Patriots being drafted and essentially replaced here at home. But I wanted to go a little bit further with this and kind of because that was his theory and it's an awesome theory. And I think that very possible, as I said last week. But I have my own theory on this. And again, it's going to rub some people the wrong way. I get it, especially the folks that hold their guns at night and they're just ready for this big event to happen, right? Here's the thing. They've already replaced us. There's not a replacement in progress. Our replacements are already here. I don't very much get into pro sports, but I'm going to make a pro sports analogy. We're that player, us Patriots, the folks that remember what this country was like prior to 9/11. All right, the adults. Um, we're that athlete that's still in the game, but we don't have a lot of tread left on the tires, so to speak. The people that are going to replace us, they're already here, as we mentioned last week. These are the number one draft picks coming in to eventually take over for us, like it or not. So it's not a matter of if they replace us, they've already done it. These people are already here, the plan's already in place. I've seen, and really the biggest reason I decided to have this discussion this morning, I've seen the comment throughout the week here. And also, I've seen messages, throughout the community that the slow burn is real. The slow burn is getting to people. This, frog in a boiling pot. Temperature goes up half degree a day. And it's absolutely correct. And it will get to you, but you need to suck it up because what I need you to understand this morning is a lot of people are waiting for this massive conflict to kick off. Now, again, getting into last week's discussion, there may be a massive conflict. We may see a draft, at which point we may see these sleeper cells, if you will, and all of these fighting age males that are here try to overthrow the country. But then again, and this is my own theory, they really don't need to. They don't need to go to war with us because Father Time is already at war with us. Yeah, that's a losing battle. We're not all going to be here 20 years from now having this same conversation. Many of us will have passed on, and I believe that's what globalists have figured out. They're kind of biding their time and they're waiting. They don't need to do anything. They've already got the people in place who are going to take our place. Have you noticed over the past few years? Now, this is an observation on my part. Hey, son, maybe I'm nuts over here. I don't know, but I don't think so. Have you noticed that many of the commercials on TV, they don't appeal to us anymore? We're not like the target demographic or age group anymore. You know what I mean? Advertisers are targeting younger people, and they're targeting uh, different groups that have made their way here since September the 11th for various reasons. And these commercials, they just don't represent patriotism anymore. There's not a lot of Christian based commercials. There's not a lot of conservative based commercials on TV anymore. Now, there are some, but not like there used to be. You'll hear other terms to attack on Christmas and stuff, and then you'll get the other crowd that says, "Oh, nobody's attacking Christmas." Well, they're scared to death to use the word Christ in anything, and they're scared to also, for the patriots out there that are non-believers, maybe they're scared to pitch patriotism and our flag and the core values of this country in a positive way, even with the shortfall of recruiting that we have. They still have not pandered, kind of went back to the idea of patriotism. Does that make sense? Let me ask you a question, and it's a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer it, but think about it. All right, think about this today. If you take nothing else from this video, I want you asking yourself this question, okay? Um, who is going to be living in your home in 50 years? 50 years from the day that this video publishes, which is going to be what, the second, right? No, the first. I'm sorry, November the 1st. Who's going to be living in your home 50 years from now? So we all have a plan, right? We would like to think it's our kids or our grandkids, maybe. But if you take a look at the way the rules have been restructured in this country, you begin to see, unless you're totally blind, you begin to see this redistribution of wealth. The rules are set up in such a way, it's going to be very hard to keep that home and keep that property in the family. So the $1 million question is, who's going to be living there in 50 years? Do you honestly think 50 years from now we're still going to have illegals living in tent cities and these migrant camps and in airports in Chicago? Of course not. They're going to be living in your home and many other homes out here. They're already here. Well, their family, their kids, or their grandkids are set to inherit your home and your property. And that's just the way it is. When you take a look at our society right now, we don't have much of a middle class to speak of, and it's getting worse by the day. The divide is getting to the point where it's upper class or upper middle class and lower class. Both of these groups are already replacing the groups that are here. Let me give you two fine examples this morning, okay? Um, Colleges, universities, indoctrination centers, they're churning out, as we like to call them, soy boys and blue hairs. Um, we call them that here, Prepper Nation. Whoever it offends, whatever, don't care. The point is, people are graduating and they're indoctrinated. They've been taught at a university, higher learning has taught them to hate the United States of America, to hate our way of life, to want a redistribution of wealth, to want communism or whatever comes next. The people that are graduating with degrees, now they can be useless degrees. There are a lot of those out there, whatever. That's going to be your upper class, you know. That's how they are establishing an upper class here in the United States of America. And as I've said before, A lot of these illegals coming across the southern border. Um, I've been called a bad person for saying it, but I'm calling a spade a spade. Don't care. Call me whatever you will. When they get here, they have minimal skill sets. They're good at manual labor. They're good at certain things that they were doing in their home country before they got here. But as I've said before, ain't many doctors coming across the southern border. Ain't many lawyers coming across the southern border or physicists, things like this. All right, these are people again with a very limited skill set, and what is happening is they are bringing in their next wave, their number one draft pick for lower class. This is their lower class moving forward. And when you take a look at the upper class, again, totally brainwashed, totally indoctrinated, hate America, communism rules, right? And you take a look at the lower class that's coming in, you realize there's not a lot of room for us. This is why they're eliminating the middle class. I'm just giving it to you straight this morning. Not a lot of room for us. Our kids, our grandkids, how are they going to manage to survive this? If the trends continue, where do they fit in this picture of America 50 years from now? Because the rules are slanted against them at this point, I would argue, for the sake of diversity and inclusion. Again, if you don't hate this country and you're not from a different country, a different point of origin to begin with, you're really up against it here in the United States. It's like if you're a Christian and you're a patriot and you're pro-American and you belong here, you're the bad guy or bad gal. Um, and that's just what it is. People with our values, again, we're in decline. 20 years from now, 30 years from now, look, there are going to be less and less and less patriots in this country. And that's just the truth of it. There are going to be less and less and less Christians in this country. Churches have failed us miserably. Not every single one. There are good ones out there, but by and large, churches have failed. They've begun to accept things as normal that 20, 30 years ago would have never been allowed in this country. As many of you said, we've turned away from God, but the churches have allowed that to happen. And they've done that for monetary gain. They don't want to lose people coming through the front door. So the point I'm trying to make this morning is if you're sitting around waiting on that flashpoint, if you're waiting for them to take our country by force, these sleeper cells, which again, they might. I'm not going to sit here and say that's not going to happen. They may very well do it, but they don't need to do it. You may be disappointed if you're sitting around waiting on that. This slow burn may turn into decades because I think that the globalists have figured out this is how you sack the United States of America. You don't sack it entirely. You Trojan horse it, and you do it over the span of a few decades. And before you know it, people like us are totally gone. We've moved on, and we've been replaced again by low skilled people who speak a different language and America haters who are your new aristocrats in society. Um, we've already lost two wars here in the United States. Patriots have. Number one, we've lost the war on propaganda. We have. Too many people care about nonsensical things in the United States of America, and it's done again over the course of decades because of propaganda. People have quit caring about important things and they've started chasing things like the next iPhone and Kate Spade pocketbooks and stuff like this. Now that's consumerism, but there are a lot of other examples. All right. It's not just store bought things. We place more emphasis on who we are online and our online presence than we do things in the real world, things that actually matter. And this has been done via propaganda. So we've lost that war already. And we've lost the war, as many of you have pointed out, on complacency. Way too much complacency over the past few decades. Now, again, they can launch an attack when we're at our weakest moment, or look at Russia and Ukraine for a minute. All right, this is a good example. Russia figured out, hey, Ukraine can't fight the long game. They're not going to be able to win a long war. So we're going to keep stacking it up, and we're just going to continue to funnel this machine, and we're going to wait them out until they collapse. I think this is what globalists are doing. They're just sitting back, checking the clock every so often. You know, how many patriots passed away last week? How many this week? We've got their replacements ready to go. So it's a slow process. Um, how do we how do we defeat this? There are two ways, because I don't want to get up here and give a hopeless video this morning and offer no solutions. Okay, there are two things that need to happen. Number one, mass deportations immediately. It's got to happen. If we don't have deportations, it's over. All right. And I don't think that's going to happen. And let me tell you why. Maybe I'm wrong. I can't think of a single candidate running for the GOP right now, the conservative party, that is pushing for mass deportations. Now, if I missed it, I'm sorry. If there's some news out there, if somebody has said something on their website or something, I don't stalk these people online. But I've not actually heard them say we need to get in, we need to mass deport people out. They're not gonna say this because even though they know, inherently deep down, they know this needs to happen, they're afraid it's gonna do political damage and they're gonna look like bad people, and so they're not calling for it. Trump, maybe, I'm not sure, but he didn't do it when he was in office the first time, so I suspect he's not gonna do it the second time around, should he get back into office. Most of the candidates that are running right now are pointing to pathways to citizenship, not mass deportations. Pathways to citizenship dooms us because it ensures that the people that are here illegally are eventually going to replace us. Y'all getting that, I hope, this morning. Got to have mass deportations, number one. Number two, we've got to put an end to wokeness. And I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think that's going to happen for the same reason that the GOP candidates haven't called for mass deportations, because nobody wants to look bad. Nobody wants to go online and say we need to end wokeness. We need to stop with this inclusive crap. We need to stop with all of the propaganda and the race baiting back and forth. Has nothing to do with race, by the way. When I say illegal, I'm not talking about skin color. There are going to be a lot of people here in the United States that are supposed to be here that don't look like I do, that are going to be replaced too. It's not just white folks being replaced. It's patriots, Christians, and conservatives who look a bunch of different ways. Okay. So until we end wokeness and until we mass deport these people back out of our country, this is the plan, I think. Just to water everything down until America doesn't even look like America anymore. Wait for the folks that are the enemies now, for whatever reason of the country, um, to die off and then replace us. So what I want to do is I want to shift over now because it has to do with this morning's topic. All right. Um, and this is, I'm going to be replying to a comment that I wrote down. This actually comes from last week's video, is where I pulled this comment. Again, the comment is called The Draft. And or excuse me, the video is called The Draft from last week if you want to go check it out. But this comment, I'm going to read this off to you real quick. Then I want to respond to it. It is very concerning to me that even flag waving patriots like those on this channel would not be willing to fight for this country. I'm glad the greatest generation didn't feel this way. Now they're talking about this was a reply because I replied to their first comment. They were basically saying, hey, it's an honor if you get drafted. You need to go somewhere and you need to fight for this government and Joe Biden. And they were saying, if you don't, you're a coward. I can't imagine something to do with, I can't imagine the shame you would bring on your family by not wanting to be drafted and sent to a meat grinder. And I'm like, I had to comment on it, and that's what they left. So I want to reply to this because this is part of the problem. It's not 1950 anymore, son. It is not the year 1950 anymore. All right. Or 1940, the greatest generation, of course, being that of D-Day, World War II. The country was far different then, and it was worth fighting for. The government actually cared about the people somewhat. Um, but it is not 1950 anymore. And there are too many people out here, and their minds are stuck on the concept that, hey, it's still 1950-ish. This country is going to work itself out. People, they need a reality check. There are too many people that need a reality check. And again, that's part of the problem because that leads to complacency. This is where all of this complacency is coming from. There are not enough American patriots out here in the United States that realize just how bad things are. There are not enough American patriots who realize what is actually taking place in public schools, what is actually taking place in public universities, how much our churches have failed us, how much veterans are being treated poorly, things of this nature. They just, I don't know if it's willful ignorance. I don't know if these people really do believe that a leader's going to come in and just clean everything up and correct the country and get it back to 1950, but it's not 1950 anymore. People refuse to accept what the United States of America has become in 2023. It's a totally different country. All right. The people that were storming the beaches in Normandy, I agree. Militarily speaking, probably the greatest generation this country has ever seen. Some of the bravest soldiers that we've ever had. But you need to understand something. Whoever left this comment, you need to understand, number one, it's not the same country. Number two, a lot of the people that are in the military don't even like the country. They've been trained not by the military so much, but by public education. And if they've had secondary education, they're socialists or communists. They don't like the country that you remember in 1950. If you brought up the country the way it was back during the greatest generation that America has ever seen, the soldiers would call you racist and a bunch of other stuff, probably whatever they were taught in school. But until enough people accept the fact that America is what it is now and not what it used to be, until we have enough people accept the truth about the United States of America, nothing will change. There are too there are too many zombies walking around in their phones, sure, and we make fun of them all the time, but there are too many what I would consider to be American patriots, people who actually care about the United States of America, who are also walking around blind and running into walls, and they don't understand what's going on because they don't educate themselves. Sorry, but they don't. They don't understand how badly our institutions are failing us and failing our children and failing our grandchildren because they are caught in a time machine somewhere. That country is gone. What remains will also be gone unless people wake up and do something about it. All right. Mass deportations and end the wokeness. That is how we do something about it. Until that happens, folks, continue to stack ammo. Continue to grab those guns and be ready. But understand they may bury you with the guns. You may die of natural causes. They may just pile the stuff in the casket with you, son, and then replace you. Who is living in your house in 50 years? Think about that today. Y'all take care and God bless.